Let me tell you a little something about myself. I have never watched a Gundam. Not the original, not Turn A, not Double O, not even Witch from Mercury. In fact, if you need to know my exact lack of credentials here, up until a couple weeks ago, I thought all of the mechs in Gundam were called Gundams. I would say the only two things I knew for certain were what the white Gundam looked like, and that there was a character named Char Aznable. Also that he has a counterattack, I suppose. But those two facts come from unavoidable cultural osmosis and the original name of a fantasy football league I am in. The current league name is the Iserlohn Fortress Memorial League, please do not ask. Despite all of this though, I wouldn't say I'm anti-Gundam. It's always been a series I've been interested in. I like mechs, I like political intrigue, I like space operas, I like fun. It's just that when starting at zero, the series can seem very imposing to get into. So I never did. Until now. Kind of. At the behest of my good friend and Gundam fan Replay Value, I finally started my Gundam journey with GQuuuuuX, a decision I kind of regret. To clarify, his request was specifically so we could see how GQuuuuuX would fare without prior knowledge of the canon. He did not do this maliciously. He may not respect me, but he does respect Gundam. And let's be honest, I was going to need to be forced to start a Gundam at some point anyway for us to even get here. But regret, that's a heavy word, and one that usually doesn't have many positive connotations. So do I resent the fact that I watched some Gundam? No, the opposite in fact. I really did enjoy my time with GQuuuuuX, so much so that I regret that I missed out on loving it for all it's worth. See, GQuuuuuX is a love letter to Gundam, specifically UC, or at least so I've been told. And the problem with love letters sometimes is that you need to have the love going into the series for it to fully affect you in the way the authors intended. There are moments littered throughout this series, particularly towards the end, that are essentially designed to make the audience point and yell at the screen, and without the pointing and yelling, it does lose a little something. I do think it's an interesting experience though, while I'm not sure I'd recommend it, and we'll get to that a bit later. Trying to glean what you can from the breadcrumbs that are just references for most people provides an honestly uniquely fun puzzle for an unseasoned viewer. I spent much of the 12-episode run trying to figure out what a new type is, only to be later informed that nobody really exactly knows what they are anyway. There would be characters or things I could tell were important, and then I'd have to pick up whatever I could to figure out why. This is not the intended vision for the show, but it was admittedly pretty fun. It does leave some of the mysteries wanting when the reveal is something referential that the show is assuming you recognize. I'm sorry I don't know who Lala is, or that the Rose of Sharon is actually the Elmeth. But I don't want to belabor this point too much, as I really did enjoy GQuuuuuX, especially the first half, which definitely feels more fit for a newcomer. Its entire setting is a reference, yes, but you can pick up basically everything you need to know from context clues, with the alternate history episodes working as traditional backstory in this case. The contained story of the characters on Side 6 is more personal, and the intrigue was more compelling when there was an easily identified face and motive behind every decision being made. You feel more connected to Machu at this point in the story, as you're learning things about the mobile suits, the war, and whatever's going on behind the scenes in clan battle at the same time she is. Anything that feels unclear in the first half feels very naturally unclear, even if it's unintended. Machu works quite well as the protagonist in this way, but also in any way. She's got the energy to steal the screen in every scene she's in, and also the earnestness to play off of Nyan and especially Shoji's lower energy, mysterious vibes. In particular, I really enjoyed her rapport with Nyan and all the genuine friendship and jealousy that came with it before they were sadly separated for the second half of the story. I just found their chemistry way more interesting than the Machu-Shoji crush angle. And no, I did not lose a game of chess to a dog here, even if the kiss at the end did feel a little unearned, in my opinion. Shoji himself kind of feels more like a plot device than an actual character at times, even if he does fill the necessary mystery box role well enough. Interestingly, for how much I prefer the first half and seeing things from Machu's perspective, the Nyan bits were by far my favorite parts of the second half. I think watching the tragedy of her finally receiving attention and love from someone, only for it to be someone who wants to use her, is very compelling, especially after her struggles with being a refugee while on Side 6. It's also my first exposure to how Zeon works at all, and while it's far too quick to really learn exactly how the society operates now, it adds welcome color to the world. Nyan is also voiced by Yui Ishikawa, who is Morgan in Fate Grand Order. This has no relevance to her performance here, but if I'm going to be exposed to someone else's hyperfixation, then you're all going to have to deal with mine. Also, Gundam Fred, an incredibly funny name for a machine designed to kill untold number of people. And that just leaves us with the only other two characters I want to talk about, Char and Chalia Bol. As I was finishing the show, I was 100% like, damn, people must ship this. This is incredible. only to learn that Chalayabul is barely in the original Gundam. He's there to introduce what new types are and get jobbed by the Gundam. And he looks like this. Most of the characters I've seen side-by-sides for have translated pretty well to the new art style, but that's just a different guy. Come on. They made him so much more attractive. He's also maybe my favorite character. I would probably defer to one of the main girls if pressed, but I think he's developed so well as this shadowy double agent figure where you can never quite know what he's thinking. Genuinely such a sick twist at the end that he was looking for Char the entire time, but actually to ensure he never became the leader of Zeon. Between that, his fun, if short-lived, training with Machu, his insane mobile suit, and his mustache, he quickly became a personal fave, and I'm sad that there will not be much more bull content awaiting me in the future. Char, on the other hand, feels a lot more like a caricature, and not in a bad way, more in a he has already received so much development in other series, so he's a distillation of a character you're already familiar with way. He absolutely chews the scenery in his limited time on screen, and plenty of people have already harped on his hilarious magical girl transformation. He's one of the most iconic Gundam characters for a reason, the show knows this, and I love that. Okay, I briefly lied earlier. I did also want to mention how funny it is that Maria Issei is just doing the killable voice for Anki. That's just the same voice with no changes. It's so funny. Something that I've thought about a lot ever since finishing GQuuuuuX is if being one core hurt its storytelling ability. And I think from my limited point of view, of course it did. Getting to spend more time with these characters, whether on Side 6 or out with their respective Zeon faction, would have done wonders for fleshing out this particular story. I would have loved more time with Machu and Mian and been able to dig a lot deeper into their characters. However, I don't think that the show needed another 12 episodes to tell the story it was trying to tell. Since I was missing a lot of crucial historical context, all I had to grasp onto was what was in front of me. But if you consider the canon that GQuuuuuX is working with, the show, in essence, is already much longer than 12 episodes. There's a good chance that more runtime would have just dragged out the mysteries and cut into the impact of what the show was trying to do. While the pacing is a bit fast towards the end, I have to remind myself of the greater context in which these events are happening. So while I would have loved at least a little more time to spend with these characters, I admit that that's a personal pipe dream, not a real critique in this case. Honestly, more episodes probably would have just made the production more difficult, and I do not want that. For as much as I can sit here and debate the merits of my experiences with the story, you don't need any prior knowledge to enjoy the animation of banquet that this show rolls out. I'm really glad we've progressed past the point where public sentiment on any 3D CG animation was to immediately scream and cry. And a lot of that is the art form has progressed so much in the last 10 to 15 years. Whether that's using these tools to create animation that general audiences think is traditional 2D style, or just sick 3D robots. This is simply the best way to bring these machines to life. You can argue the merits of that, and it's not like there's not an entire back catalog of incredibly looking 2D mecha, but some of the stuff they can have these mobile suits do, particularly towards the end of this series, is just ludicrous. It adds a level of fluidity and motion to these fights without stripping away the weight and size of the hulking machines. Studio Khara did a wonderful job making the entire series, from character designs to fight scenes, look incredible. And while you can certainly spot some Anno influence in places, you can also tell that this was not his baby. This was Kazuya Tsurumaki's show, and I have no complaints. It's a stylish, colorful, beautiful series. So where does that leave me? The person who watched an alternate history spin-off series as their first Gundam and was kind of mad about it. Well, to answer the question from earlier, I don't think you should watch GQuuuuuX first. Do I think you can have a good time? Sure, I did, but given the way it's structured, I don't think it's the right starting point. Now, if you just love the look of it and have no direct intention to watch more Gundam, then by all means, don't let its connective tissue stop you from enjoying what is still a wonderful show. But if you do have the intention to watch all or some of Gundam, this should not be where you start. While I do regret that I didn't entirely get the intended experience that GQuuuuuX provides, I don't regret watching it. Because watching it got me hooked on this, and I will say this lovingly, dumb robot series, and I'm now watching Gundam 79 with the intention of following through at least the core of Universal Century. So while I don't regret watching GQuuuuuX, it was a mistake. For my sanity and probably my wallet, because I might be about to become an actual Gundam fan.